Saskatchewan just posted a deficit after promising a surplus, and Scott Moe is headed to China to fight back against canola tariffs. I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid, and you're watching The Gun Show. Cut right to the chase. I'm going to try something a little bit new today. I thought there's a lot of news happening in Saskatchewan, and I talk a lot about Alberta or things that touch on Alberta on The Gun Show, but I realize that Alberta is not the only place on the prairies where news happens. We just happen to do the news a little bit bigger with a little bit more swagger, but our friends in Saskatchewan are just as conservative as us, and they are facing so many of the exact same issues as we are here in Alberta. We are a united West. So I thought, why don't I make a show every few weeks, maybe a month, that's Saskatchewan centric, and maybe going forward I'll bring in some Manitoba issues, because Wab Kinew is the NDP premier there, and someone should be holding him to account from the right, and I think maybe that someone should be me. I guess I just gave myself a little bit more work. But moreover, to the point of the show, I thought, I know some people in Saskatchewan. My best friend lives there. And she's a regular contributor to Rebel News. And we also have a friend, Michael Kouros, who used to be on the radio in Saskatchewan as a conservative commenter. And I thought, let's convene a panel I am calling the Saskatchewan Soapbox. So this is the interview that I recorded with them yesterday. Take a listen and let me know. Here it is. Now, in a panel that I think we are tentatively workshopping, focus grouping, to be called the Saskatchewan Soapbox, is our Tuesday, Wednesday Rebel News live stream co-host Elise Merle, my real life best friend from Regina, Saskatchewan, and a regular contributor, I hope, to the Wednesday Buffalo panel. We call it Western Wednesdays on the live stream, Michael Kouros, who is a political commentator, man about town in Saskatchewan. Michael, thanks for joining us, both of you guys. This show, as I said, it's the Saskatchewan Soapbox, so we're going to focus on Saskatchewan issues. I talk about Alberta issues all the time, but there is not one prairie province. I don't want to be like the people in Toronto thinking that Alberta is the center of the prairie universe.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So I thought I would get right into it. And also, I'm learning technology on the fly, as so many of us are today. I'll start by sharing my screen. First thing I wanted to talk about, Saskatchewan's budget taking a big hit. So they anticipated a $12 million surplus, and it is now a $349 million deficit. And if you dig down into this, it says the province is tying the reversal to a $172 million drop in revenues, most of it from its crown agency, Saskatchewan Power, because not only did they remove the federal carbon tax, but they also removed the industrial carbon levy from Sask Power and other heavy emitters. Now, for me, I think this is actually a good reason to be in deficit, but at the same time, also they should have cut the spending, knowing full well this money wouldn't be flowing in. And it also shows that these so-called carbon levies are just a big dump of money into the government coffers. It doesn't actually go anywhere except for the government to spend on other things. It is just a tax. It doesn't save the environment. Michael, I'll go to you first.
It's an odd thing. Obviously I'd like to see a balanced budget because I think that's the right way to run a province.
Sure. There
are going to be years that it's going to be in deficit. There are going to be years that are going to be in surplus, right? What annoys me more than anything else about the opposition is ultimately when you balance the budget, they refer to it as an austerity budget, meaning there's no new money for programming, that sort of thing. And when you make a surplus, they basically say, well, the surplus isn't large enough because ultimately we could have done better. Like it's an annoying thing. One deficit does not bother me. Now, one of the things that has not been mentioned in this report is what has our population increase been over the last little while?
Right.
And how much has the new population used our social services, our healthcare, et cetera, our services that are contributing to this deficit? Because that's nowhere to be seen. There is the carbon tax. I get that, but I think the reporting needs to be a little better than what we're seeing here.
Lise.
Well, I think it's real important to talk about. It is one of the founding principles of our Sask Party to have smaller government and to never be in the hole. Really, that is the goal of the Sask Party. And according to the Fraser Institute under Premier Scott Moe, 2021, 2022, and 2023 have been the 3 highest years for per person spending on record. This is inflation adjusted, even if COVID-related spending is excluded. So we are spending a great deal of money in Saskatchewan that we don't quite have. And as a conservative, as both a social and a fiscal conservative, too many of these in a row is a real area of concern for me.
And let me just pop in here as someone who has lived with the Conservative Party dribbling towards the center, and then all of a sudden they don't make the NDP, they make the NDP seem all that not crazy because there's not a lot of daylight in between them and fiscal issues. That's how you end up with an NDP government for a while. That's what happened under the Redford Tories here in Alberta. You know, we had a balanced budget under Ralph Klein, and we were really proud of that. We had a law preventing deficit spending, and then the Redford Tories repealed it, and then they spent like crazy. And then that whole idea of fiscal conservatism wasn't even the thing that the Conservatives held. So the NDP, their spending proposals didn't seem all that far off the Conservatives, and that is problematic.
And that is a real danger for the government of Saskatchewan and the reigning Saskatchewan Party. They saw incredible losses to the NDP during this last provincial election. And if they continue on this path, where there is no daylight between Sask Party and the NDP, and there isn't in so many areas, right? Whether it is nuclear development, Sask Party and NDP are on the same page. Whether it's education, it's like Sask Party and NDP are on the same page. Healthcare policy, NDP and Sask Party are on the same page. If the Sask Party doesn't make moves right now to put some daylight between them and the NDP, we could see an NDP government in 2028. Like, God forbid. We do not, like, obviously that would be a worst case scenario, but that is absolutely a risk given the current state of affairs in Saskatchewan.
One of the hardest things I think in politics would be, particularly in Saskatchewan and Alberta, is this government was elected November 7th, 2007.
Yeah.
Right? They have been in power for almost 18 years. Mm-hmm. And one of the toughest things, I think, with any political party is actually renewal while you're in power.
Sure.
Because all government, and I can't remember the person who said this, but all governments that are not conservative eventually start shifting towards the left, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing it more and more. We're seeing it more in, you see it in cities particularly. It's not that the Sask Party has gone full-blown center-left, that sort of thing. But in terms of the bureaucracy and sort of the insular nature of the party, they're closing ranks, and it doesn't seem like they're taking a lot of advice, or they're not really listening to their friends and members. They're just kind of doing things, saying there's a bit of a paternalistic attitude right now going on, and it's not really helpful. And the thing is, I'm a longtime Sask Party supporter. I'm going to continue supporting them. But I see what's happening, and I see the constant erosion towards the left. And if they don't pull themselves out, it's up to them to pull themselves out, nothing else. If they don't, we will eventually see another NDP government here.
Yeah, I think that's why it is incumbent on conservatives to offer their conservative parties honest criticism. Because, as you rightly point out, all the forces of the universe are pulling them to the center and then to the left.
Yeah, correct.
The culture, the bureaucracy, the public service, the media, they're all going to drag them towards the middle and then across the middle. And so there needs to be something to the right dragging them back to the other side. And I think that's sort of my role and your role, everybody's role in all of this, either as conservative journalists or as conservative activists.
Exactly right.
That's where we are. We're supposed to keep them honest.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Liz.
Go ahead, Michael. We give them permission. We give them social permission to support policy that is going to be wildly popular to conservatives. We give them the permission to do. And so in this moment, we're just giving the government of Saskatchewan permission to do, because Michael, I'm so happy you sort of mentioned the break. I call it being or I describe it like there being a break in the feedback loop with with Sask Party and the government of Saskatchewan right now. Whereas we see next door, the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, holding Alberta Next panels with hundreds of Albertans in every room, hearing every single one of them. And this is something that the Sask Party is not only not doing, but they are so insular in the advice they're getting. They're sort of missing the boat as it pertains to conservatism in Saskatchewan. So it would be great if they blew open those doors to having conversations again about determining the next steps for Saskatchewan, and for really empowering the people of Saskatchewan to have those conversations with the government again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of the problems that they have is, or it seems to me, is there's two parts to the advice game. There's giving the advice, and then there's actually taking the advice. Now, of course, as a layman, I don't know all the inner workings of the government, so they could be doing something that I'm not aware of. There might be information that I'm sure.
Always, yeah.
There's always this.
Yeah.
But one of the suggestions I gave the party last year, or 2 years ago before the last election, I said, when you've got MLAs that are driving to their home constituencies, which could be sometimes hours away from Regina.
Oh, sure.
Pick up your membership list, dial everybody on that membership list, and ask them one simple question. How are you doing? Not how are we doing? Not what do you need? It's like, how are you doing? Right? And that would be voter outreach. Now, the thing is, my suggestion was never taken up for some reason. But the reality is, it seems as though many Sask Party supporters have become tired of the government, because it seems the only time they get a call from them is when they're actually asking for money or donation.
Oh, I was just gonna be like, I was rubbing my fingers under the desk. I was like, that's exactly right. And what you're describing there, Mikey, is a very Rob Ford move. Rob Ford gave his phone number to absolutely everybody and spent every waking moment where he wasn't like in person politicking on the phone with his constituents. It didn't matter to Rob if why you were calling was you needed a garbage can. Okay. Rob wanted to hear from you and actively engage. Actually, Rob Ford and Danielle Smith have a lot in common in that regard. Yeah. And I don't think that there would be any person on a membership list that wouldn't be happy to hear from their elected representatives at this point. It would just be so good. It would just be such a good idea.
It's such an easy thing to do, and I really truly hope that the Sask Party that maybe doesn't get annoyed with us, but maybe does get annoyed with us. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, listen, we see this thing going down. We see where this path ends, and this path ends without you being elected.
Well, and that's the crazy thing, right? Is that the Sask Party right now needs to be listening to its base.
Absolutely.
And doing the things that its base tells them to do, or else we will be walking 4 years. I'm sorry. It's preposterous for me to even think about, but could you imagine
what happened, you guys?
Having Premier Carla Beck? I mean, I'll be in Alberta so fast. I mean, there will just be no dust on my shoes. I'd be gone so fast. But that's what we're being faced with. And we as a conservative base have to make sure that doesn't happen by directing the Sask Party in the right direction at this exact moment in time.
We can direct them, but they need to listen. They need to be able to do that sort of thing. And right now, things are going against them. Particularly, this may become the only conservative voice for Saskatchewan politics in the entire province, because they don't have to talk anymore. That's gone. That is absolutely gone. So It's this mediocre sort of non-thinking radio show that they have now that basically I don't quite get, right? But it's like, okay, well, if I want my mind full of mush, I can just tune it in here, I guess. But the reality is it doesn't make you think. It doesn't make you, there's no real values there that are being expressed, right? One way or the other, left or right. There's no real values being expressed. So the Sask Party, I think, have really, really taken a hit because the thing is, I think their media is not helping them right now.
Yeah, Saskatchewan's media presence is comparatively to other places is very, very weak. But we have absolutely no conservatives doing. We have no conservatives doing a mainstream show, and we're just thinking about maybe changing that maybe a little bit.
Yeah, we should change it because it needs to be done. You got the brainiacs at Chorus basically saying, well, you know what, we should be just a little bit to the right of the CBC, and you take a look at the Chorus stock price. How does that help them? Like, come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's jump ahead to the next one because I have 5 topics and I hope we can get to all of them.
Oh, okay,
This
let's
one
go.
is NDP all of a sudden being fiscal hawks in Saskatchewan. Now they say according to my read of it on the outside looking in, the Sask Party is saying, yeah, we missed the mark on our budget because we made Saskatchewan carbon tax free, including the industrial levy to make life more affordable for Saskies. And the NDP now casts doubt on the claim that Saskatchewan is carbon tax free. They say it's pure fantasy. The NDP played a video in which Premier Scott Moe declared Saskatchewan a carbon tax free province. Then Young zeroed in on the line item for output-based performance standards. That's a provincial carbon tax in the update, and it was listed as being nearly $500 million. So explain this to us, because I was reliably informed by Scott Moe that Saskatchewan is carbon tax free, and I don't understand why the NDP are suddenly annoyed that might be the case, but I can't tell. Do they want a carbon tax? Do they not want a carbon tax? Or are they only trying to call Scott Moe a liar? I haven't quite figured this out.
Well, it looks like they're claiming that it looks like the Saskatchewan NDP is claiming that Saskatchewan has a provincial carbon tax that is still being levied against the people of Saskatchewan. So it wasn't enough that we just got rid of the federal carbon tax, but we must get rid of the provincial carbon tax too. And if we do have a provincial carbon tax, if we do.
Michael has another.
Michael is saying no. Michael shakes his head no already.
The NDP have absolutely no standing when it comes to the carbon tax issue. Absolutely no standing. Now all of a sudden they're upset there's a carbon tax when they were for it, but they realized it wasn't a winning election issue. Then they go against it, and now they're basically Captain Carbon Tax. This is crazy, right? You know what? I'm not sure what the accounting is. The thing is, there is carbon tax in Saskatchewan. We can't get away with it. Basically, it is there. Now, how it gets reported is above my pay grade. But the reality that the NDP are actually blowing the whistle on this, supporting, like, all of a sudden now they're the NDP, the no carbon tax party. Are you kidding me? They've got no standing on this. They're using this as a political cudgel, and that's all they're doing. Because if they had their druthers, if they could convince the majority of people in Saskatchewan to have a carbon tax, they'd be right into that, because that's what they are at their very, very core. So so cry me a river, NDP, that you guys are actually complaining about the fact that there's a carbon tax in Saskatchewan when it's something they promoted all along.
Yeah.
Sorry, that makes me crazy.
Me too. I don't know what they're angry about. Are they angry about that there's still a carbon tax, if there is?
They're angry they're not in power. That's what they're angry about.
And haven't been for quite some time. That's some compounding lefty rage coming out of the Saskatchewan NDP. But anytime I see Elena Young, like Saskatchewan NDP MLA Elena Young, I just get this whole like body cringe. You know what I mean? I was just like, oh, here it comes. Oh, here it comes. Like she should come in on the music that the Wicked Witch of the East also came in on. You know what I mean? Because that's going to be the level. That's going to be the level of commentary out of her. But anyway. way. In any case, a swing and a miss by the Saskatchewan NDP.
Yeah. Okay, next one. This is one that Michael already talked about a little bit. And, when we were talking about the deficit in Saskatchewan, and he pointed out, well, what the heck, how much is the population grown? And it says Saskatchewan accepting more immigrants, but nominations remain well below past levels. It sounds like CBC is disappointed that the federal government isn't helping to fill up every square inch of Saskatchewan with people. Province's nominee program rises to 4,761 spots after Ottawa approves more allocations. So it's up a full 25% from the year before. I'm not quite sure. It says 25% of the new nominations will go towards jobs in trucking, accommodations, food services, and retail trade. Healthcare, agriculture, and skilled trades will continue to get priority processing as the province tries to address labor shortages in critical sectors. I refuse to believe that the province has a labor shortage. It might have a inward migration shortage. These are people unemployed in other provinces that could easily come to Saskatchewan to enjoy the good life. And like accommodations, food services, and retail trade, those are kids' jobs. We don't need temporary foreign workers for that.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, it's so bad in other provinces that basically there are entire segments of that young generation that are not getting jobs because temporary foreign workers are taking those jobs. And the thing is, it's quite bad here. And I am concerned about the aspect of temporary foreign workers actually sitting behind the wheels of the big rigs. It really concerns me because there are plenty of stories out of Ontario where the training schools are not their one-day training schools, and you get people behind these big rigs, and it is becoming increasingly dangerous.
Oh, and nobody knows this more than Saskatchewan, specifically the town of Humboldt. That is Michael's hometown. Sheila Gunn Reid is Humboldt, Saskatchewan. Nobody learned that lesson harder than the people of Saskatchewan. We already know that. But to be completely honest, our schools are absolutely stuffed with kids. Absolutely stuffed with kids. We're talking 60 kids in a classroom. 60 kids in a singular classroom. Our critical healthcare infrastructure is bowing under the pressure of because all of the people that come to Canada on a temporary foreign worker visa get access to our healthcare.
Right.
And so even that amount, I look at that and I go, where are we going to put 5,000 new people? Where are they going to go at this point? Right. So it's time to really reevaluate the entire thing. And also, like when we see those intermittently in Saskatchewan, you'll see an announcement that we've hit a new population high. Like, it happened at 1 million, but every 100,000 or 50,000 after 1 million, we do it too. It's like, we reached 1.1, we reached 1.3. Well, can we stop bragging about that? Like, that's not necessarily a great thing considering all of our public services are being stressed by those additional people.
And the thing is, one of the things that the NDP did is they actually did a survey because they managed decline very, very well. The survey as to how many people would have to live into Saskatchewan, and then we could still run it. I think the number they came up with was 700,000 or 800,000 people. Now, Brad Wall was the one who came up with the idea of we need population. But basically, it was in migration from other parts of Canada because, frankly, it's a great place to be here. Now, I can speak to the immigrant thing. I'm the son of immigrants. My parents came here as immigrants. I grew up in an immigrant family. That's what I came here. But it wasn't wholesale. We'll just bring 500,000 people in here. We'll just put them, Heather did wherever we want to put them. It's just the reason why the Liberals are doing this. There's only one reason. If you took the immigration out and compared the GDP numbers to the population that would be here, we would be in such negative territory, it would be devastating to the economy. Right now, if you can bring a bunch of consumers into the country, you can still make those GDP numbers look semi-okay. That's what they need to bring the consumers into the country. If they stop migration, the real GDP numbers, because they stopped oil and gas exploration, they stopped pipelines, they stopped all of these industries, and ultimately they've tried to replace it by consumerism. We'd be in real trouble here once the rating agencies took a look at us and say, this is nothing but junk bond status here. Yeah. So I'm for immigration, but I'm not at the numbers they're bringing in, because when I was on the healthcare region, when I was on the board, at that time, immigration levels were far, far lower than they are now. Sure. And we are still overburdened on our system. Now you add another 100, 200,000 people to the rolls in Saskatchewan. Sure. It's going to be absolutely devastating. Oh, and by the way, when I was in the health region, the first meeting I had, basically after the first sort of session we had, I was asked by the board chair, what do you think after being on the board for 3 months? And I said, I certainly don't want to get sick in this system. I saw how bad it was.
That's telling, hey?
It is telling. It's absolutely scary. So
and the crazy thing is, it's been bad for a very long time. I can recall being pregnant with my now 12-year-old. So this would have been 13 years ago, and coming down with very newly pregnant. Okay, it was still a big secret. Nobody knew that I was expecting, but came down with just a vicious stomach issue, and had to spend. And also I was nursing. I was nursing a baby and pregnant and viciously ill, and was in a hallway with people that were huffing Pepsi bottles literally right next to me. And I remember checking myself out of the hospital because I was so horrified. After 40 hours, I also had a bag of IV liquids in. I was feeling better, but I was so horrified. I took my IV out of my own arm and just left. I just left the hospital. And I was on John Gormley's show, okay? The next day, he wanted to hear about this hallway medicine, It was called hallway medicine at the time. So for at least 13 years, and now for 400,000 extra people, that's still just the level of care that's been maintained. And yet, we shovel wheelbarrows full of money at the healthcare system for no change in it whatsoever. Yeah. None. So anyway, all of this to say, all of our infrastructure is being stretched, and it's not good.
It's not good. And the thing is, this has not been thought out. And the whole idea behind this is there's been absolutely no thought behind this, right? Unless they're trying to collapse the system, which they may well be, right? There's no thought behind any of this immigration. Yeah. The numbers are too large for any country to handle it. And I don't care where they come from. I don't care if they come from India or from Turkmenistan. I don't care. But the reality is, it's too much for any civilization to be able to handle.
I care.
This level.
I care. Well, I care.
Okay.
I care where they're from. I care about cultural compatibility.
Sure.
And language compatibility. Okay. And I don't want the Rainbow Railroad from the United States coming straight into Saskatchewan. I'm just going to say that. Okay. With Chapel Rowan and her song that mentions Saskatchewan, that makes it all popular in the LGBTQ groups. I don't want that for Saskatchewan, because here's the thing. We are culturally incompatible, so I will just leave it at that.
You know about this Chapel Rowan thing. I just got to mention this, even though it's not on topic.
Yeah, sorry.
She mentioned the word Saskatchewan is because it rhymed, not because it was a great place to be. It's because it rhymed in her song. It's and we're like, yay! These are the same people that go to a rock concert, and the guy looks in the back of the guitar, and there's a piece of paper taped to it and said, "Where are you tonight, Saskatoon? How you guys doing? Saskatoon! Yay!" Come on, are we that stupid of a population? She mentions us in a song. Oh, look, people notice us. We're way better than that.
We are way better than that. Thank you, Mikey. We are way better than that.
Are we going to talk about Sean Feucht, by the way?
Yeah, we can in a second. I want to talk about this.
First, this is interesting. Look at this, Sheila Gunn Reid.
So, Premier Scott Moe is headed to China to talk about canola, which is the job of the foreign affairs minister of the entire country, which I think is Doug Ford, the way he won't shut up about Donald Trump. But this is a job for our trade minister, our foreign affairs minister, but thank goodness Premier Scott Moe is taking this on his own. I'm sure he's going to go there with well wishes and strong backing of his friends in Alberta. But I'm happy to see this, considering this is an industry that is larger than the steel industry.
Yeah.
And the federal government is willing to burn down the economy to save the steel industry. So I'm happy to see that at least this is getting the seriousness that it deserves from Scott Moe.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Scott Moe taking our advice. When we said on the Rebel live stream that he should absolutely go to China and figure this out, because the federal government was crapping the bed at such a rate that it was never going to get fixed if we just left it in the hands of the federal government. And to be completely honest,
I don't want them dealing with it. I'm worried. I'm embarrassed already at the thought of it.
That's exactly it. And so we sort of gave Scott Moe permission on our show to go to China, get this dealt with. And hopefully he can find some resolution to this problem. Okay, this China problem, somewhat of an unreliable trade partner for the last 40 years or so. But God knows that the federal government is not going to do it, and somebody had to step in, and I'm happy that it's Scott Moe.
Well, the prime minister right now is busy in Poland and the Ukraine, where he's actually talking about giving them troops if a peace deal is reached. I think he's going to Latvia. Meanwhile, the U.S. is sitting there going, hey, what about us? Do you guys want to talk with us or not? He's not doing anything with China. I honestly believe that Mark Carney either wants to see a destruction of the West, or basically, and I think a better idea. I really don't think he knows what he's doing. I think, quite frankly, he's so ineffectual. Everybody talked about this is a negotiator, the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England. And the reality is, I don't know if the guy is an effective negotiator. I don't know if he knows what he's doing. We've got the U.S. question that's still hanging out there. He claims it's the best deal in the world, which is utter BS. And then basically we got this thing with China, and it takes a provincial premier to go to China. Why isn't Carney on that trip?
Right.
But he's making deals in Poland.
Yeah.
Poland, great country, right? But not nearly as big or as important as China is to Canada. I don't get it. It's just I think he just doesn't know what to do.
Right.
So, he looks like, there's an old joke that basically, so the Pope was on the street on Fifth Street in New York, and a cardinal said, I just saw Jesus walking down Fifth Avenue here, and he says to the Pope, "What should I do?" He says, "Look like you're busy." That's Mark Carney. Look like you're busy.
Right.
Well, I can't handle this stuff. I'm in Poland and Germany and Latvia and the Ukraine, and get down to the U.S. and deal with these guys.
Right.
So I don't get it.
Yeah. What do you want me to do? Govern?
Yeah. I didn't get elected for this crap.
Exactly. All right. One last thing on my list, and then we'll get to the Sean Feucht stuff, because I think despite the best efforts of the municipal leadership in Saskatoon, I think it all went off pretty well. But I like this one. This is my fantasy for Alberta, because as you know, we are coal rich here in Alberta, and Saskatchewan is saying we're not converting to natural gas. We'll do other things with our natural gas, like heat our homes. And instead they're budgeting nearly $1 billion to refurbish their coal plants. And in Alberta, during the dark days of Rachel Notley, we accelerated our coal phase out, despite having 800 years of clean burning coal under our feet basically everywhere in this province. We retrofitted to natural gas and didn't have enough time to build new natural gas plants to coincide with the phase out of coal. And then now in Alberta, one of the most energy rich places on the face of God's green earth, we have threatened rolling brownouts all the time. Yeah. So I'm so pleased to see that Saskatchewan is saying we will keep our coal for as long as we possibly can. Thank you very much.
This is incredible. This is actually just such an incredible move for the southeast corner of our province, where coal country is. But this is also a pretty boss move by our provincial government, considering the federal government ordered us to stop on coal. Don't you dare develop your coal. Don't you dare mine it. Don't you dare market it. Don't you dare. It is dead in the ground as far as the federal government was concerned. So that our provincial government made assurances just now that our coal industry is not going to be put at risk is extraordinary for Saskatchewan, and it's extraordinary for our Southeast.
Now, of course, we're going to get lawsuits against this because, quite frankly, it doesn't fall within the jurisdiction. But the reality is this. If anybody's watched Landman, I think Billy Bob Thornton does a pretty good job of explaining what happens when oil goes away, right? Then he talks about the windmills and saying the windmills that are being built right now won't offset the carbon footprint it took to build them.
Exactly.
Right? So coal is something like this entire net zero fantasy, absolute fantasy, whether it be 2035 or 2050. For politicians that are talking like this, that won't be around when 2050 comes. They won't be around in many cases when 2035 comes. This fantasy that the world, to stop the earth from getting 1 degree warmer, that ultimately we shouldn't breathe because that's carbon dioxide. We should get rid of the coal. You've got coal scrubbers. You've got carbon sequestration. You've got everything taken to make sure this is as clean as possible. And the fact is you can have a baseline of power that won't freeze our citizens in the dark. Because in order to get nuclear up and running, which not even the greenies agree on, you have to do the construction, then the generation, then the transmission, then the retrofit. It will cost trillions of dollars to do all this stuff. For what reason? It's a problem 100 years in the future.
Right.
This is absolute garbage. This climate stuff is garbage. It absolutely is garbage. It's a made-up thing to transfer the wealth from the rich to the governments, where people can pick money off from the governments and have all these consulting companies and get paid tens of millions of dollars for doing nothing. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I for one, maybe it's because of my age, maybe because I got a birthday coming up that I'm not too happy about. I'm just becoming an old curmudgeon. And this is unadulterated BS. And that's as nice as I'll say.
Oh, I just love Mike on a tap dance. Like, you wouldn't know from looking at Mikey that he can go on such extensive tap dances, and yet that's just what we heard. But no, Mikey, I agree. The net zero fantasy that we've been chasing. So whether it's called net zero, whether it's called green, whether it's called sustainable, whether it's called renewable, all of this is baloney. It's just a big old shell game that they're pulling on us. But having acknowledged that, then I think that we need to have a real quick conversation with our Crown Power Company, because our Crown Power Company, okay, Sask Power, we just talked about that in the last piece, posted $178 million deficit or revenue shortfall. Well, okay, then maybe we should stop chasing these net zero pipe dreams and start providing some value for the people of Saskatchewan. The people of Saskatchewan do not care about the green initiatives that Sask Power has latched onto and are making us pay for, to be completely honest, nor do we care about their DEI programs, the flags, I swear to God, on the outside of the Sask Power building during Pride season, there must be 20 Pride flags flying on the side of Sask Power. If you can show me how those Pride flags benefit the people of Saskatchewan, give them value for their energy costs, well, then I might let you have them. But you know what? We all know that they don't. Get back to what you're supposed to do. Deliver power and as cheaply as possible and get the hell out of my life. The end.
And make sure there's no brownouts and make sure basically everything runs as smoothly.
Sure.
You know, when we were kids, when we turned on the light switch, we knew there was going to be light there. When we turned on the gas, we knew there was going to be heat there. It wasn't a problem being a kid. Now we got problems as we get older. The stuff's just laying in the ground, but we got problems. Well, because it's better for us, we should suffer because what's going to happen? You know what? I love my grandkids. I got lots of them. My great-great-great-grandkids, I don't really care about because I'll never.
They can have the nuclear.
They can have nuclear.
They can take their time on the nuclear. That's right. Yeah.
I might even like my great grandkids. So hopefully I get to that point. But my great grandkids, sorry kids, you're on your own. Guess what? Great grandpa said so.
My cares are for 3 generations, and that's it.
Popping out of 3 generations.
Yeah. You're all out of caring.
You guys figure it out. You guys got your flying cars. Whatever you guys are doing, just do it. Figure it out.
You and your jetpacks.
I often think, like, what do the people in the developing world think when they're like gathering up their water from a river where a corpse just floats by, and they're burning cow dung to cook their food over?
Yes.
And I tell them, did you know that we have one of the world's cleanest burning deposits of coal? And they said we can't use it for electricity.
Yeah.
And now I have, like you, I flip the switch and nothing. They must think we're insane.
Oh yeah.
They must think we're I just think about the experience that my people had arriving in Saskatchewan, like in the late 1800s, and the experience that they would have had. Literally nothing. Had to dig out the side of a hill for their first winter. Had
Stop lying.
out of a.
No. But
There's one, and they had it's like walking uphill both ways to school, right? But I think about their experience and my grandmother's experience raising 11 and 13 children with no power. I look at my existence and I think, do I want to go back to that? Like, do I really want to go back to that?
The whole idea of these climate activists is, okay, yeah, let's do that again. Yeah. There was no power back then. There was no running water. So yeah, let's do that again. Like, it's like,
and
what are you guys thinking? Like, what are you thinking? Like, it's just
Stone Age.
I remember when Ezra came up when it was Human Achievement Hour rather than basically right, and that just drove the left crazy. It is Human Achievement Hour. So I don't know. The thing is, this is just absolutely insanity. The idea that next year 1 out of every 5 cars sold in Canadian auto dealerships has to be electric.
Never.
Nobody wants the bloody things.
You guys, okay, just practically speaking, how on earth am I going to get my family into a 4-passenger vehicle or a 5-passenger? Like, literally, our family is bigger than any EV available on the market right now. There are no 12-passenger EVs. What are our families like mine supposed to do?
How am I going to get my thing off the field?
Right?
We'll retroactively have less kids.
Right, go back in time.
Give one up for adoption.
Just go up and just talk to them all, saying, who's not really keen on being here?
Yeah.
like survivor around the dinner table. It's like, whoever does not eat those beans, okay, is going to get an X on there. Yeah, and then you might get shipped off to the orphanage.
Climate change Sophie's choice. Climate change Sophie's choice. You got to pick one.
Okay.
I'm going to pick 2 of you guys off to the house next door.
Last topic with you yahoos before I run out of time and I'm late for a staff meeting. This is the one that Michael wanted to talk about. Sean Feucht concert in Saskatoon. Draws over 1,000, and it was met with loud protest. And it was really just a gaggle of losers from the Rainbow Mafia showed up to shout down a bunch of Christians. And whatever you say about Sean Feucht, like, look, I'm not into Christian rock music. I'm Catholic. I complained one time about a intrusive percussive instrument. I sent an email because somebody brought a tambourine to mass in the music ministry, and I was like, the Lord only needs our voices. So this is not my bag, but I believe in the right of people to be able to worship where they see fit, as long as they're not blocking any streets or breaking any laws. And I don't think there's a place for the municipal government to weigh in the way that they have. And I'm so happy that in Alberta, it was able to go forward at the legislature. They have like
that's hilarious.
4,000 or 5,000 people, and Sean Feucht went into the legislature building and said a prayer. But good for the people of Saskatoon for not bowing to the cancel culture heckler's veto.
It was real close, though. Like, it was real close because Mayor Cynthia Block did her level best to blow the dog whistle to alert all of the activists. And it just so happened that all of those federally funded activists were at their cottages up north, okay, at the time of this protest, at their third or fourth vacation property, because they make so much money. But there wasn't that many that showed up, which good for Sean Feucht. But Michael, I know that you had some thoughts on Mayor Cynthia Block.
Yeah, no, when she made her announcement and they actually shut her down, by the way, I thought that was absolutely hilarious. I don't think that she's vindictive enough to try to shut them down, but I think she was giving them the pathway. Here's how you shut it down. Make sure that the city thinks that this is an unsafe thing to go ahead, and then make it unsafe so that it doesn't go ahead. Right. So, right now, I'm hoping I'm going to start a petition to get reparations for the people that were hurt by his Christian music, because there was a bunch of people. I saw some of their blue hair turning red. It was amazing. They were so upset. The most offensive part were the people holding signs. Basically, they were the ones that were the most offensive. Right? They were the one. I guess love is love unless you love Jesus. Right? Unless you love the preborn. I guess love is love. It doesn't count in those cases, right? And the thing is, to me, I would have gone. I'm kind of with you. I'm an Orthodox Christian, right? So you're right. The tambourine thing, I can totally understand. If anybody ever brought a tambourine in a Greek Orthodox church,
I was beside myself.
Yeah, like, okay, well, you can't do this. Don't do this. As like, God will be mad.
You'd get shamed.
Yeah,
shamed.
Like, I don't think he works at that level. A tambourine, really? But anyways, but the thing is, it went off without a hitch. The LGBTQ plus, and I wonder who the plus are, were not injured by this at all.
Yeah, nobody died.
It was perfectly fine. Nothing happened we knew nothing would happen. Sure. The only thing that would happen is the people protesting would make jerks of themselves, right? So they stop them, and it's a bloody shame. And this is the one thing that annoys me more than anything else. If a government wants to shut down anything, all they have to say is two words: public safety. And then they get the ability to shut down everything. I saw when I was on the health board, if a union didn't want to deal with a situation, they would cry patient safety. Then all of a sudden, everybody would get scared and everybody would shut up. Public safety. Oh my God, it's going to be unsafe. Who's it unsafe for? It's unsafe for hurt feelings. That's it. He played, and the thing is, the Pride Parade is way more offensive to people than Sean Feucht's concert was.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. So let's be honest here. It was a whole whack of nothing, and I'm glad that they didn't shut it down. I'm glad City Council and whoever got decent advice to say, okay, just let it go, and they let it go because, like I said, he's not my style either, but if they want to, every Saturday, there is a protest in Saskatoon for the Palestinians. Every Saturday, and anti-Semitic slurs, but is that safe for the Jews in our community? Absolutely not. So I'm glad he was able to do it. I'm glad the protesters were so few in number, and I'm glad he was able to move on to Alberta.
Yep.
Yeah, that it was even considered though, and it was applied. It was applied in other jurisdictions. His concerts were canceled numerous times, and the cancel culture mob won in that case. But pertaining to this exact story, I saw a quote, and it was just so profound that I had to write it down and remember it forever, because it applies to so many segments of current Canadian culture. So whether it be the LGBTQIA community, whether it be kids in school, whether it be COVID, the quote was, "Safety must not be the altar upon we sacrifice our freedoms." And I went, we must not sacrifice our freedoms on the altar of safety. And so whenever you, like, as thinking people, whenever you hear somebody say it is a safety concern or it is a safety risk, or you really must think to yourself, what are they actually trying to stop from happening?
Right.
So
see, and it's only a safety concern when it comes from the right.
Right.
It's never a safety concern when it comes from the left.
Yeah.
right? The BLM protests, right? Although they were relatively peaceful in Saskatoon, but they were completely unpeaceful. Well, mind you, they were mostly peaceful in the U.S., according to the U.S. mainstream media, right?
Peaceful fires.
Right. The thing is, if the right want to congregate and do something, then there's always safety concerns. But when the left want to congregate and do their Palestinian marches and want to do basically their LGBTQ marches, right? They don't ever have to worry about right wingers kind of.
That's right.
About destroying their parades, because right wingers aren't like that. They don't do that. The left wing do that, right? Not the right wing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, never us.
Never us. You guys, I'm going to be late for my staff meeting. Thank you so much for helping me kick off, I think, the inaugural recording
episode
of the Saskatchewan Soapbox. I hope our viewers write in and let me know exactly what they think of you two. And I say that.
Oh, I don't want that.
I do, because I know it's going to be good. You know what? We'll try this all again in a couple of weeks, hopefully, and we'll have even more horrible things happening in the culture to talk about then. I can't wait. Thank you, guys.
Well, thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, everybody, the last segment of the show is yours, because I want to know what you think about the work that we do here at Rebel News. So if you have a comment, and really, please, if you're watching this, I want to know what you think about the discussion I had with Lise and Michael. Do you want more of that, less of that? Do you want us to loop in some Manitoba-based issues into the show? Because I'm open to doing that. Send me an email at sheila@rebelnews.com. Let me know what you think, because I do care. I want to know your opinion, because I mean, you watch the show, so I want to give you something that you want to watch. And I also go looking in the YouTube comments, because I'm curious what you think about my other work at the company. For example, this week I launched a campaign to free the nicotine. Canada has this crazy set of regulations wherein if you want to consume nicotine, which is not bad for you, nicotine is addictive, but so is this stuff, right? So is hard drugs, and the government will give you those, and the crack pipe to do them with. But nicotine itself is not inherently bad for you. In fact, it is prescribed to people with degenerative neurological disorders. So we know it's good for your brain. And yet in Canada, you cannot get access to nicotine, really, unless it has all the other bad stuff in it, like the tobacco and the additives, the cancer-causing stuff, which is crazy, right? You can go buy chewing tobacco and stick it in your lip, but if I wanted to buy Zyn at 6 milligrams, that's illegal. Which is crazy. And this is not an ad for Zyn, but like, why is Zonic the only one allowed on the market at 4 milligrams? As if you go over that amount and magically you just lose your mind. Well, a lot of it has to do with lobbying of big pharma. You see, you're allowed also to get nicotine gum, Nicorette, which is owned by a big pharmaceutical company. Why? Because they lobbied the government heavily. So the government knows that nicotine isn't bad for you, because they'll let you buy it in other forms that they approve, Zonic at 4 milligrams, and Nicorette gum. Why? Because Nicorette gum successfully lobbied the government, and again, I reiterate, owned by big pharma. So I thought, this is stupid. And I'm a non-nicotine user. I've never had a delicious lip pillow in my mouth ever before. I've never smoked a cigarette. I've never vaped. I don't feel like I need to. But if you feel like you need to, or even better, that you want to, it's not my business. And especially, I'm not taking lessons about not getting addicted to substances from the government that will give you safe supply of opioids and the crack pipe to smoke it. Okay? So, you know, I thought it was stupid. I started a campaign. It's at freethenicotine.com if you want to sign it, because, I mean, make the policy make sense. It doesn't. I think if you want to use nicotine, you should be able to get it in as many different flavors and in as much concentration as you want It is addictive, but so is coffee, so is alcohol, opioids. The government doesn't seem to have a problem with those things. So if you agree with me that the policies around nicotine are schizophrenic and heavily manipulated by Big Pharma, and to, see my video on it, and where I show you the studies that show that nicotine is used for neurological disorders, you can do that at freethenicotine.com. And I wanted to know what you guys thought about it. And the superbly fantastical Chan 943 writes, they also limit the amount of cannabis products you can purchase at one time to 1 ounce. That's no different than this purchase limit. Well, that's stupid also. Like, if it's legal, it's legal. Like, what is the difference? Whether you buy 1 ounce or 2 ounces, you can't smoke it all at once. I think that they're worried about you selling it to the taking it across the border into the United States, but that's the border guard's problem. It's not the consumer's problem at the store. I don't like that rule either. And I don't like the fact that you are limited to 4 milligrams of Zonic, and just that brand and just that brand only, and you have to buy it at the drugstore for some reason, when you could just take 2 Zonics and stick it in your lip. It's dumb. But I can go get chewing tobacco, Skoal, and give myself mouth cancer, because that's way easier than getting Zonic. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Let's keep going. Shad Williams says you can get caffeine pouches in the States. I think you can get caffeine pouches here too. You can get vitamin vapes. I just don't understand the rule. And I say this as a non-nicotine user. Sometimes I feel like I could use a quick hit of nicotine to get my head screwed on straight. But if I wanted that, I could go up to the gas station on the highway and get a pack of darts. But I can't get, and give myself all the horrible things that come in cigarettes. But I couldn't get just the nicotine, which would probably straighten my head out. Again, stupid, right? It makes no sense. Adams 402 says, as a non-nicotine user myself, hi friend, I have also not been able to understand the messed up logic behind people not being able to get readily available pouches. Thanks for the clarification. Of course, it is completely nonsensical and money is behind it. Yeah, Big Pharma lobbying. And so they lobbied everybody else out of the marketplace. And then they say, oh, it's for the health of Canadians. There's nothing inherently harmful about nicotine. Nothing. And if they cared about your health, they would make it easier for you to get your hands on just the nicotine over all the cigarettes, right? But they don't care about your health. I really don't want the government to care about my health. But they don't, because of their completely bizarre rules that don't make any sense around the use of nicotine. Like, you can't get flavored cigarettes, but you can walk into the vape store and get like a birthday cake vape that lights up like a whistle. Doesn't make any sense. And look, I'm not saying ban the gajillion flavors of fruit flavored batteries that people suck on. I'm not saying that. I think blow that market wide open, but also blow the cigarette market wide open and let people get all the nicotine pouches that they want in whatever concentration they want. And maybe people will start thinking more clearly once they're sufficiently nicotined. Anyway, that's the show for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see everybody back here in the same time, in the same place next week. Please do let me know what you think about doing a Saskatchewan and maybe a Manitoba-based panel discussion on the show. Do it again, don't do it again. What do you want me to change up? Please let me know at Sheila@rebelnews.com. And as always, friends, don't let the government tell you that you've had too much to think.